Hey everybody, this is Angela and you're listening to Five Picks and a Chick featuring El Gato. This is a show that gives you 5 NFL picks for people who love football and friendly wagering. Today we are joined by our special guest, Henry. Hey, thanks for being with us today, Henry.
Hey, thanks for having me. Look forward to another great weekend, and it's kind of a bummer. It's nearing the end.
I can't believe it's week 16 and we're just 3 weeks away from the playoffs. It seems like it flew by this year.
It really
Hey,
did.
Henry, El Gato is not going to be with us today. He is under the weather, but we do have his picks.
Okay,
Sounds
sounds
good.
good.
All right, Henry. Well, let me go over our record for last week and then we'll get into the picks. Last week I went 3-2. Gato went 2-3. My season record is 45 wins, 30 losses. His record is 44 wins, 30 losses, and 1 push. So that gives us percentages of minus 60%, and he's at 59%. So we are still above that 500, which I think is pretty darn good, especially given that we're towards the end of the season.
Well, especially in the NFL, as tight as the lines are, you guys are having a great year.
I agree. All right, Henry. Well, let me go into the picks. My first pick is going to be Buffalo minus 14 versus New England Patriots. Bill's offense is definitely on a roll, scoring 40 plus points in their last 2 games. Their defense, however, has also let up 40 plus points in their last 2 games. So they really need to get back on track in this game. I think this is a good spot to do so, coming back home and facing the Patriots, who really struggled to score. Allen's still in that MVP talk. I am going with Buffalo minus 14. I think it'll be much more than 14. What are your thoughts on this game, Henry?
Yeah, you hit on a couple of the big points. The Bills' offense has been great, scoring 40 the last two games, but as you said, the Bills' defense has given up 40 or more the last 2 games. Patriots just aren't a very talented group. Their young quarterback, he's having a pretty good year. He just doesn't have much talent around him. I just wonder, Bills are coming off just a big win last week over Detroit. This almost seems like a letdown spot for them playing the Patriots. Not really much to get up for playing the Patriots. I really don't want to get in front of the Buffalo bandwagon, but I just I just think 14's a lot of points. I think the back door is going to be open late in the game. I'm gonna take the Patriots plus the points. 14's a lot of points in the NFL, and I just don't know how much motivation the Bills are going to have.
So you're thinking that they used up a lot of their gas last week.
I really do. It's a home game for Buffalo, but I just don't. I just think that you have a lot that you used last week, and I just don't know coming back and playing a Patriots team how motivated you're going to be. And I just think, they're probably going to be up 20 points in the fourth quarter, and Patriots going to get some sort of garbage time touchdown in the back door to cover it.
Yeah, I get that. El Gato actually is going with the Buffalo Bills minus 14. He has stated that Buffalo and MVP Josh Allen is on a roll right now. They took care of the Lions and backed it up with physical play last week. He doesn't think that the Patriots will score even 17 points, and he definitely sees the Bills scoring over 30. So he is going with Buffalo minus 14. So my second pick is going to be New Orleans getting 14 at Green Bay Packers. The Packers are clearly the better team here, but I think 14 points may be too much for this game. The banged up Saints have actually covered 4 of their last 5 games. And I think they'll come and play hard again, being that it is a prime time Monday night game. So I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints getting 14 points. What are your thoughts on this game, Henry?
Boy, have you seen the forecast for Green Bay the next week?
Yeah, I did.
It's going to be snow, it's going to be ice, it's going to be temps below freezing. I don't know how a dome team like the Saints is going to handle that. Packers have won 4 out of 5. Packers have scored 30 plus points the last 4 weeks. I don't know if Kamara is going to play this week, the rest of the year. He's got a groin injury. But the Saints showed a lot of fight last week in that game against Washington. Washington's got a high octane offense, and they held those guys under 20 points. That's 3 straight weeks their defense has held the opponent under 20 points. And again, like the game we just talked about, 14's a lot of points in the NFL. I'm going to take the Saints and the points.
Awesome. El Gato is actually going on the other side. He's going with Packers minus 14. His notes that he gave to me is that Packers are in a must win to keep the NFC North and wild card chase. He thinks that they'll execute offense better than Washington did against the Saints. And defensively, he feels like the Packers are better equipped to handle whoever is quarterback for the Saints. He sees the Packers scoring 31 points to a 14-point Saints score, which means that they would cover. Like El Gato mentioned, I don't know if it's going to be Rattler or Hayner. I
I haven't
know
heard.
that
I haven't heard.
Rat yeah, Rattler actually did very well last week after they pulled Hayner and put him in. But I heard on the shows, of course, the football shows, that they're thinking about putting Hayner back in, which I'm not really understanding that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what you said is correct. Hayner looked terrible. Then Rattler comes in and shows life. And Rattler's an interesting guy because he was early in his career at OU. He was projected to be the number one pick in the draft. Obviously, things didn't work out that way. He transfers from OU to South Carolina, falls in the draft, but he's a talented guy. He was a big recruit out of high school. If I'm the Saints or a fan of the Saints, I want to see Rattler out there as my quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Guess we'll see on Monday who they end up putting in as quarterback. Do you have a third pick for us, Henry?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to go to the Saturday night game or the Saturday afternoon game in Baltimore. It's Steelers versus the Ravens. This is a chance for the Steelers to bounce back after their what I call a poor showing against Philadelphia last week. If they can win the game against Baltimore, they secure the division. No, Baltimore is in the midst of 3 games in 11 days. Obviously, Lamar Jackson had a great game last week with 5 touchdowns. But I just really think it's going to be a bounce back game for the Steelers. Pickens is supposed to play this week. He did not play last week. And obviously, the Steelers offense really struggled last week. So I just think, in a division game, 6.5 points is just a lot. So I'm going to take the Steelers to bounce back, secure the division, win the game against the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going with you in this pick. I'm going with the Steelers getting 6.5, which I think is a lot. The Ravens have always struggled against the Steelers, and some of Lamar's worst games have been against the Steelers. It's like Tomlin knows how to play against the Ravens. Steelers can clinch the division with a win and should be able to keep it close even with their injuries to Watt and Pickens. I'm not sure if either one of them are playing or that they're both playing, but they won't be 100%. So give me the Steelers plus the points. El Gato is also going with the Steelers in this game. His he states that the Steelers defense actually matches up well with the Ravens offense. Steelers will need to control what Jackson does in the pocket and limit his scrambles, where he can actually cause a lot of damage. Key will be making them execute long drives without giving up explosive plays. Steelers need to play some ball control and let Wilson try to execute his short to intermediate pass game, which may open up Harris's run game. So El Gato is going with the Steelers as well. So all three of us are going with the Steelers.
Very nice.
Cool. Well, El Gato's fourth pick is going to be Denver Broncos plus 2.5 at the Chargers. His comments or the reasons why he likes this game is the Broncos defense are getting a 3-point lead. So he loves that that's happening. The highlights of the Tampa Chargers game shows that the Chargers offense struggled with a physical fast defense, and that is what the Broncos bring. So as long as Bo Nix can manage the field position and extend drives and have no turnovers, he feels like that the Broncos will cover in this matchup. What are your thoughts on this game, Henry?
Well, the Chargers defense really got roughed up last week and given up 40 points to Baker. And so I really think that they're due for a bounce back. Jim Harbaugh's a good coach, and I think he's going to fine tune things to get that defense back on the right track. Denver has won 4 games in a row. Bo Nix has thrown 5 picks in the last 2 games. So, looking back to last week's game for Denver when they played the Colts, that was really Denver's defense that won that game. Chargers offense has been really sluggish the last 3 weeks with Dobbins out. So I think you have the Chargers at home. They've had a struggling offense. Their defense got roughed up last week. I would love to be able to find the Chargers minus 2.5 and take that line.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going Chargers minus 2.5. Although the Chargers, like you said, have not been playing good football, but Denver is on the road. They're on a short week, and they've got a rookie quarterback in Nix. I think Chargers should capitalize in this game and cover the 2.5. El Gato's fifth pick is going to be Eagles minus 3.5 at Commanders. His thoughts on this game are he sees the Eagles continuing to run the ball and control the offense with Barkley. Barkley's been great, I agree. And picking the right moments to let Hurts hit his long passes. Washington actually escaped New Orleans after an uninspiring, lazy second half of play. Eagles defense can play suffocating style, and as long as they can limit Daniel's positive scramble plays, this should be a 7-point win for the Eagles. And this is according to El Gato. He is going with the Eagles minus 3.5. What are your thoughts on this game, Henry?
No, I'm with him on that margin of 7 points. I mean, 3.5 seems to be a bit of a gift, and I think it would be 6.5, 7.5 if it was in Philly. Washington's last 2 games have been against the Saints and the Titans. So playing Philly this week is a huge step up. Philly's won 10 games in a row. They've scored more than 26 points in 7 of the 9 games. They're coming off a win last week over the Steelers, who looks like they may win that division. As you said, Washington escaped, over a win against the Saints, who are playing second, third team quarterback. The Eagles defense is playing great. Washington struggled with a Saints defense, so I would expect them to struggle with a Philly defense. To me, this seems almost too easy at 3.5. I'll take the Eagles.
So I'm going to go the other side on this. I'm going with Commanders getting 3.5. This is the last chance for the Commanders to show that they can actually beat a good team before the playoffs start. This is a really tough divisional matchup, and I think it will be a field goal game either way. So I'm going to take the Commanders getting 3.5. So give me the Commanders. Hey, Henry. So we're at that point in the podcast. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I've been meaning to ask you if you watched that Lions game with the Bills last week. That was a high scoring game.
Man, that was an incredible game. I really thought that they were going to go over 100 in that game in total points. It was a great game. I know the Lions are banged up, but they kept it somewhat close. You could tell that the Bills actually were in control. So I'm surprised about the score, but yeah, that was an amazing game. Do you like okay, let me ask you this. Do you like a game with that much offense?
I don't. I would rather, and I've talked about this in baseball. I would rather a baseball game be 2-1 than 10-9, and I'd rather a football game be 2017 than 48-42.
Yeah,
I
I
like a
agree.
little bit of defense sprinkled in.
Yeah, I agree. And so do you think, I mean, because those teams, both of their defenses are fairly good defenses. Why do you think that it was such a high scoring game?
Well, I know Detroit defense is really banged up. They've been talking about
Yeah,
that for a couple of weeks now. I don't know about Buffalo. Buffalo's had a couple of really rough weeks on the defensive end. So I'm really kind of curious how both these teams bounce back because, like we talked about, Buffalo has New England coming to town. Detroit plays at Chicago, so those are just huge letdown spots. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Lions got to get healthy, and Buffalo, I think their coach is typically more of a defensive oriented coach, so he just got to kind of fine tune things.
yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, we
Anything?
have the college playoffs starting this Friday. We got one game Friday. We got three games on Saturday. This is the first time we've had a 12 team playoff in college. The seeding's a little bit weird. You got teams like Arizona State and Boise State getting byes. And then you got, a potential second round matchup with Oregon and Ohio State. So I think you got to do a little bit of tweaking with the seeding for this college playoff. But I think it's going to be just a lot of fun to have 12 teams, fighting for that trophy.
Yeah, and so let me ask you this. Who do you think has the easiest route to the championship game? Because I kind of have my thoughts, but I'm just curious to see if you think that there's a team that has an easier route than some of the other ones.
I think it's split. You have Texas playing a 12 seed Clemson. If they get by that game, they're playing an Oregon, I mean a Arizona State team that was not even picked to finish in the top half of the Big 12. Then you have a Penn State team that's got SMU, which most teams didn't even realize, what state they were in. And then they got Boise State after that. So either one of those two teams, I mean, if you're Oregon, you got to be scratching your head of why you're facing potentially Ohio State. And then you got Georgia, who's, got Notre Dame or Indiana. I don't think they're really going to sweat either one of those two teams.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. My thought was Penn State. I think they got a good draw. So, but I want to see Penn State do well. So they're one of my favorite college teams besides Texas. So,
Who is your pick to win it all?
ooh, I'm hoping for Texas, of course. That's with heart. But
Sure.
Oregon looks good, man. The Ducks look really good. So I'm hoping for Texas, but Oregon, I think, could take it all.
No, I think you're right about the Ducks. I wouldn't forget about Georgia with their backup quarterback. I think the Horns and the Ducks are going to get a lot of love, but don't forget about Georgia.
Man, it's going to be good. And I'm glad they went to this playoff bracket, the 12 teams. I think it's a good start, but I think there's some tweakings that could be done to it, but I think it's a good start with having these 12 teams.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the first round is home games. We'll
Yeah,
see.
it is. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Any other final thoughts, Henry?
That's it. That's it.
Well, you know what, Henry? One thing I do want to wish a Merry Christmas. Next week, we are going to have a podcast, but it's going to be virtual. And not only a Merry Christmas, but a Happy New Year because we won't be back for a regular podcast until after the new year. So
To you as well.
thank you. Well, if you made it to this point in our podcast, we just want to thank you for listening to Five Picks and a Chick. Hit the subscribe and like button on our YouTube channel. You can also find us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Again, thank you, Henry, for joining us today. And thank you for kind of bearing with me with Gato being out. We want to wish him a speedy recovery.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Get well.
Yep. And next week, like I said, we are going to have a virtual podcast. So hang in there with us. We'll be back, I think, on January 3rd. And as always, thank you to El Gato for being part of 5 Picks and a Chick. 1, 2, 3, bet. And that's a wrap.